All right. Bleeding full. Still no pop-up ads. Well, that's nice. Of course, I use ad blocker, so hopefully I wouldn't notice those anyway. Uh, anyway, I it's not sci-fi. Well, I mean, it sort of is, but whatever. I just decided, screw it. I'll go ahead and cover this. It looked potentially interesting. Uh, Current Captain Marvel writers insult Carol Danvers' famous older costumes. Of course they do, because that's just, that's nice. I don't know who did that, but that's nice. It's nice art. Anyway, leave it to the awful Screen Rant to lend their support to disparaging a very decent costume design from a better era by the late Dave Cockrum in the 27th issue of the current Captain Marvel series, where Kelly Thompson and David Lopez continue to put down the past for the sake of their pathetic political correctness. Well, let the past die, kill it if you have to. Oh, we don't want anybody knowing that there was better stuff before, because we sure as shit can't make good stuff. While popular superheroes go through many wardrobe changes throughout the years, Captain Marvel's latest comic took time to poke fun at one of her old costumes, one that got overlooked from her origins when she was introduced into the MCU. When a group of Carol's female superhero friends gather together to take her out for a night of drinks and speed dating, ugh, that just sounds awful. One of the heroes bring up the fact that her dress exposes her bare legs, bringing to mind her old Miss Marvel outfit, which is criticized for being merely just a superhero swimsuit. Well, I mean, I realize that in this day and age, we've got, dipshits like Kelly Sudaconic or whoever talking about how women have always read comics, blah, 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 blah. But honestly, not in any significant numbers. Men read comics, boys and men. And of course, probably the average age has gotten older and older. I mean, comics are not attracting a replacement audience like they need to. Like they need to attract kids, but they're not marketing to anybody really. They're marketing to SJWs, and SJWs don't buy anything. All they do is virtue signal. But it's like that is fucking hot, and any straight or bi man would find that appealing. But it's like, no, we can't have that. It's somehow insulting to women. Of course, what it really is it's insulting to women who can't pull it off. Like that's the reality here. It's like if you're a woman who looks good and you can actually wear something like that and look good in it, then you're not bothered by this shit. But if you are a land whale or whatever and you can't look good in that or anything, really, then you get pissy when there's what you consider to be um, an impossible ideal to live up to. And it's like, well, it is impossible. I mean, honestly, you saw the image. How many women do you know that really look like that? Almost none. there's almost no women that really look that good. It's always idealized. And so are the men. The men in comics are always fucking idealized too. You know, I have never once in my entire life had so much as, like a fucking 4-pack, let alone a 6-pack or an 8-pack or a 12-pack or whatever the fuck. The artists sometimes draw muscles that don't even exist on the human body. Anyway, so we know where SR stands on Wonder Woman's superheroine swimsuit, of course. They make it sound as though swimsuit design and bearing legs is the worst thing that could possibly happen, and effectively disrespect every artist, pardon me, who ever came up with such a thing. Ditto the writers. I will say this: if you're if your female heroine, a super heroine, whatever, if she's not invulnerable, then the more bare skin, or for that matter, anything, I mean, any part of her that's not covered, not just by, like, I mean, a little bit of cloth, like the equivalent of like a t-shirt or whatever, it doesn't do much to stop, bullets, blades, whatever. So it's like, any woman or man for that matter who's going into combat, they should be wearing body armor if they're vulnerable. But I mean, I'm not sure. I don't. I mean, I don't really. Didn't really follow Miss Marvel or whatever. What Captain Marvel's came from originally. But didn't Rogue suck up Miss Marvel's powers, and and that's how she became so superpowered. Like all she had to start with was just the power sucking thing, and then she became, able to fly and essentially unkillable and so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, well, Rogue covers herself up so that she doesn't accidentally touch somebody and life suck them or whatever. But she doesn't need armor, and neither would presumably, I guess, would. Well, I don't know. I think it seems to vary. Sometimes Wonder Woman seems to be able to be like cut or shot or whatever, and she bleeds like a normal person, and other times she seems to be able to tank shit that would take down Superman, and not she's fine. She's fine. You never know. You never know what the how much invulnerability she seems to have. But if your superheroine is invulnerable to damage, then it's like, yeah, why the fuck wouldn't she just bare her legs or her arms or her cleavage to a certain extent if she felt like it? There's no reason not to if you basically can't be fucking hurt. Anyway, when Carol Danvers was introduced as Ms. Marvel in 1976, her original costume was basically a female version of fellow Kree warrior Marvel, with other creators trying to balance functionality with the over-sexualized portrayal of female superheroes at the time. Well, I'm totally in favor of over-sexualized portrayal of female superheroes of any time. And I may not necessarily be as in support of over-sexualizing the male superheroes. Like, well, let's say I'm not as enthusiastic about it, but I don't have a problem with it either. It's like, if you want to over-sexualize the males, that's fine. That's fine. I don't care. When Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum came on, they gave Carol a new costume, altogether complete with a new lightning bolt symbol, black thigh-high boots, and arm-length gloves. I don't know that those ever serve any purpose on anybody, but they can look quite nice. And her old scarf turned into a red sash. Who doesn't like a good sash? This would become Carol's classic costume, which would remain unchanged during her time with the Avengers until her experiences with the X-Men saw a cosmic upgrade that resulted in a new outfit, hairstyle, and even a new name, Binary. Ooh, the SJWs must hate that name for obvious reasons. Although she later went by Warbird, infringing on the Romulans' copyright. Following a significant power reduction, she returned. Yeah, you're never going to see that, by the way. You'll never see a power reduction of any significant amount. All she gets is upgrades now. She returned to her classic costume and title until 2012, when she became Captain Marvel. She embraced her new title with a costume that borrowed elements from all stages of her life as a fighter pilot, superhero, and woman, which has become her most iconic costume to date. That's nice. Like that. So, everything about those post eras is over sexualized. The writer of this is a disgrace. If that's all they can see and not a character depicted as a successful USAF officer and a magazine writer, they clearly are missing the boat. Well, they miss a lot of shit. Even if the second costume design was better, the first one still was far from the abomination they make it sound out to be. Obviously, the columnist is somebody who saw nothing wrong with the Comics Code Authority stamp, not to mention Frederick Wertham's? Wortham's? I don't know. Historical viewpoint. And I noticed they didn't get into how, over the past decade, Carol was made to look horrifically masculine, while sales figures declined. Well, every time the sales figures go down, they just fucking reboot it. They're like, oh, well, we'll have to cancel it. Well, shall we shelve it for good? Nope. Restart it. Restart it again. Oh, man. Yet they insist on keeping it going with consecutive volumes, leading nowhere. Yep, as I said. It all gets worse. In Captain Marvel number 27 by Kelly Thompson and David Lopez, Jessica Drew is able to persuade a heartbroken Carol out of her apartment, but her plans to distract her with superhero missions backfire as Captain Marvel devotes her entire life to these missions, filling any remaining downtime with sleep. Jessica attempts to correct this by forcing Carol out of her uniform and into a dress for a night on the town, inviting Carol's friends Spectrum, Hazmat, and her Kree half-sister L'Oreal. Isn't that a soap or a shampoo? L'Oreal, aka the Accuser. I thought that Ronan dude was the Accuser. I don't know. I don't follow this shit. To provide support, love, and love. Are we scissoring? And possible backup in case she resists. You gonna put her in a fucking headlock if she doesn't accept the girls' night? When Carol is pushed out to say hello, Monica and Jennifer compliment her cute dress, especially Jennifer, who has never seen Carol's bare legs in person. Of course, I've seen them a million times on the internet because you used to fight crime in a swimsuit, says Jennifer, before she wisely cuts herself off. Despite being one of Carol's most memorable costumes, it's hard to argue with Hazmat's. That was I don't know these characters. I don't pay attention. Sorry. Like I said, I was barely into comics until fairly recently, and I've not bothered to go back and try to catch up on most of it. Although I might. I tried to go and look at some old Godzilla comics recently, and discovered that one of those from, what was it, 2012 or something, started off really woke, and it's like, oh my god, was this crap going on in 2012? I thought this was a little bit more recent than that things got really overblown, but it looked like it was already in full swing by then. Although I think the second issue seemed to slack off on the wokeness, but still. Man. Because it's true, the old costume is basically a swimsuit with mask, gloves, heels, and a sash. You just wish that you could pull it off. In the past, female characters or superheroes have constantly had to be defined within the context that the stories are written with male readers in mind. Well, it really is actually smart to write it with your audience in mind. I'm just saying, if the audience wants a certain thing, maybe you should consider giving it to them. Because substitute the word audience for the word customer. the fucking customer. You know, if if they want something, give it to them. God damn it! Stop acting like, oh no, they need to be educated. Our customers need to be taught what they want. It's like, no, they know what they want. Just fucking provide it. That's all you're there for. Jesus. In the past, resulting in costumes and appearances geared for sex appeal. Yes, my God, we wouldn't want that, would we? Instead of practicality. Well, again, practicality matters only insofar as you need it to, depending on your powers and abilities. If you're invulnerable, then it doesn't matter whether you go into battle naked. I mean, Supergirl could go fight crime naked if she wanted to. I mean, obviously you couldn't do that in a book, but well, I mean, you could, but not in a, you know, not in one that was going to be published the way that the comic books were published. But you see what I'm saying? It's like, but she could, like, for all practical purposes, like, you know, it doesn't matter. She's wearing something, she's wearing nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the fuck she wears. She's invulnerable. You know, she can bear all the skin she wants, and it's not going to make a, you know, lick of difference. You know, and it's not, and unless she's wearing full body armor, I don't think that's really going to protect her from the effects of kryptonite, which is the only fucking thing that actually can hurt her. Well, I mean, you know, and certain other exotic, you know, things, weapons, magic, whatever. But it's not like the, you know, it's not like probably, you know, standard body armor would do much for that either. Carol's origin costume had an exposed midriff. That's always nice. Bikini briefs. Bikinis. And although Cochrum's redesigns were an improvement, they would be considered too revealing by today's standards. Whose standards today? Whose? I mean, too revealing by today's standards. Has anybody noticed the ridiculousness that on the one hand you have, you know, the Muslim twit who's the mayor of London or whatever? It's like he wants women covered up in, you know, burqas or whatever the fuck because of his religious convictions, presumably. But he's getting the SJWs on board because they're all a bunch of land whales who don't look good in a swimsuit, so they're in support of him trying to make it to where, oh no, we don't want to see any sexy women in revealing clothing, you know. But, and yes, the SJWs, for the reasons that I just outlined, they don't want, you know, real or fictional women dressed provocatively. And they say, too revealing for today's standards. Except, in real life, there are, you know, shorter skirts and more midriff exposed than ever before. You know, if women can carry it off, and sometimes even if they can't, they're out there walking around in plenty revealing clothing. So, which standards are we fucking talking about here? Although Carol has proven herself as a soldier, avenger, and intergalactic warrior, such again, she's fucking invincible. So what does it matter what she wears? She could wear anything. She could wear a fucking bikini into battle, which, by the way, that's one of my favorite animes, The Dirty Pair. You know, and their classic battle bikini. Those costumes are great. Such costumes say more about comics and the society they were published in than they do about the character herself. Gee. Wow, God. It's progress my fucking ass. Obviously written by somebody with no comprehension of women and their love of fashion. Exactly. No respect for Cockrum, no respect for George Perez. I've seen something of his recently, haven't I? Maybe even bought it. I don't know. If we were to cite another artist who'd drawn designs like that, this is truly disgusting and ignores Invisible Girl's blue outfit, which was far from revealing in its original design, Spider-Woman's red outfit, Black Widow's, and even Monica Rambeau's Captain Marvel outfit in the 80s. But no matter how revealing or not the outfits are, the insults spewed by such hack writers at Screen Rant extend even to the women who wrote for these publishers at the time, like Louise Simpson and Anne Nocenti. Your boy Zach's talked about her, hasn't he? I think so. Um, who clearly didn't have an issue with such costumes. I guess the uh, SR writer doesn't think they should have appealed to lesbians with revealing outfits either, right? He seems to think appealing to men is a bad thing and must really despise Stan Lee for marketing his products to men as well. Yeah, wait till this guy finds out that Playboy was a thing. I won't be shocked if the SR columnist will next say it's wrong for Japanese mangakas? What the fuck is... I don't know. To have a shonen boys market. No matter how many shoujo girls stories they have on the market as well. Yeah, well, probably so. I mean, woke culture is coming for Japan. Resist! Resist, Japan! Nippon defiant. It's also... That's nice. That was nice, too. It's also disgraceful how they claim the designs with bare midriffs are too revealing by the standards of this era. Even though tank tops are a fashion, yeah, just like I was saying, many women like. By that logic, even Wonder Woman's outfit, again, would be too much. And no doubt that's what the SR writer thinks of Starfire's costume from New Teen Titans as well. At the end, SR laughably says, considering their brand and namesake, one can understand why Disney chose to skip this costume when it was time for Carol Danvers to make her MCU debut in Captain Marvel. Well, honestly, I would say that it's kind of a bad business decision. Just saying. Just saying. You wouldn't get nearly as many. I mean, even with Brie Larson's terrible acting, or, well, terrible performance, I don't know if it's entirely her fault or not, but regardless, even with her terrible performance in that film, and everything about it sucking so bad, it's like, if she'd actually looked hot in that costume, I'll bet you it would have cut your negative reviews, at least by the men and the lesbians, in half. The type of decision is actually quite common in this age where comics are frequently adapted into film or television, with studios realizing that works for one medium may not be as realistic or in some cases suitable for another, which fucking pissed me off, honestly. It's like, I mean, again, not so much the comics, although I was aware that the comics seemed to more or less mirror the appearance, the aesthetic, and whatnot of the cartoon, but I love the X-Men cartoon from the early 90s, early mid-90s, whatever, and when I heard they were doing a live-action X-Men film, when the first one was coming out, I was so excited for that. I so wanted to see live action Rogue, and I was like, oh yeah, a tall, athletic, beautiful Southern belle in that skin tight outfit. I was like, yes, I can't wait to see that, And then, of course, we got what we got, and if you've seen it, you know what that was like, and I was just like, oh my god, they've ruined it. So that immediately soured me on, frankly, all superhero films going forward. I mean, not like I didn't like a bunch of them, it's just that I immediately, it immediately caused me to reconsider my expectations. My expectations had been very high at first. I was like, yes, finally, live action shit. It's like, this is fucking awesome. And then I saw that first X-Men film, and I was like, they're all going to be like this, aren't they? They're not going to properly adapt a goddamn thing. It's all going to look like shit. Okay, whatever. So, going forward, I was just like, yep, it's not going to be that great. So I prepared myself. I prepared myself for 20 fucking years of disappointment, which is what I've had. Uh, Other people, I don't think they were prepared. That's why they keep on being so upset every time a new thing is adapted and it's wrong. They're just like, it's like, dude, 20 years ago, man, 20 fucking years ago, I learned to lower my expectations for all of this stuff. All right. Fortunately, Hazmat realized to stop talking while she was ahead of Carol. It didn't let that little comment derail her evening that culminated in her ending up with Doctor Strange. Ending up with, like, fucking him? Is that what happened in that comic? Okay, whatever. Uh, I'm sorry, but all Disney and Marvel's film division did was succumb to political correctness. Yep. And if Warner Brothers didn't have a problem with Wonder Woman's bustier, which is skimpier than the Miss Marvel outfit, then it's laughable other studios should have a problem with the same. Why, if I'm correct, the CM? Oh, Captain Marvel. Film wasn't even produced under the Disney label proper. So what's their point? Besides, if they don't think outfits like Carol's original ones and Wonder Woman's are suitable for films, then obviously they don't think they're suited for comics either. They don't even have what it takes to support a rating system that could describe the content to determine if something is suitable for children, family, or adult audience. Even though for years before there was a rating system in video games where a product could be rated T for teen or M for mature. Yeah, to tell you the truth, as somebody who witnessed that shit come in, into being in the 90s, I didn't care for it. I didn't care for the way that they started putting ratings on the fuck. I mean, didn't used to. I don't know how many people actually fucking watch television anymore. I really don't for the most part. But you'll notice that these days, they have fucking ratings for TV shows, to tell you how appropriate it is for what age or whatever. And it's like, until the 90s, that wasn't a thing. They didn't fucking flash shit like that up. And they didn't have fucking ratings for goddamn video games either. It was just, it's a video game. Buy it if you want. Don't buy it if you don't. Usually they described what was in it, so you didn't really need to be like, oh, is it mature? No. You just read the description and know what's fucking in it. Jesus. I don't know. It's a nanny state thing, and it's just utterly ridiculous. Comments for using this for time as well. Now, with these kinds of censorious standards we're now faced with, the whole rating system has become a joke. Yeah, well, like I said, I was never in favor of it. Now, to be honest, I don't have a problem with this. I mean, I have a problem with the contents of these comics because, well, honestly, a lot of comics have this issue, which is that the cover looks nice and then the interior art looks like shit. And of course, there's SJW wokeness in almost everything. But lots of people would say that, would say just from this piece of art alone, they would say, oh, Carol looks, she's Carl Manvers or whatever. She doesn't, she doesn't look attractive. And it's like, I don't have a problem with this. This is fine with me. It's a nice enough piece of art. I mean, it's not wonderful, but it's not terrible either. She doesn't have zero breasts. They're not super obvious either, though. Obviously, I'd be fine with something much more skimpy on her. But, it must be admitted there's a certain practicality to this outfit, except for the fucking sash. It's like that there's not really a purpose to that. It's like, if you want to be all streamlined and shit, okay, but then don't have a piece of fabric fluttering around your ass. Slapping you on the thigh as you're going, unless, of course, she likes that sort of thing. And as far as the short hair, it's like, well, consider that I really had the hots for Denise Crosby when she was playing Tasha Yar on The Next Generation. I've never had a problem with short hair, especially if it's short blonde hair on a woman. But like I said, the stories are garbage. So in the comments section from original article, two people took issue with this reprehensible approach. One saying, "To be fair, even in the picture used for the article, the Miss Marvel outfit has 90% of the legs covered." True. There's just a band of thigh showing. Yeah, and it's amazing how attractive just a little bit of skin can be. You know, I can't remember where that quote comes from, but it's a quote someplace. It's like nothing kills libido like nudity. It's like just taking everything off. It's like that's not really all that nice. You'd think that it would be, but it's really not. It's much better to have just a hint. Just a little tease. Just a little bit of skin. That's better. It really is from an aesthetic standpoint. Anyway, um, the dress probably shows off more. Yeah, probably, much more. Indeed, and even if that's not a bad thing in itself, another said that's inaccurate. She just showed a bit of thighs. Her legs were mostly covered by boots. Also, it was a great design. Women wear a lot less on TikTok and Instagram just because they like the way it looks. Very true. I think the whole puff piece goes to show the writers for SR don't understand anything about women and their love of fashion. That's why it comes off as lecturing at worst while making corporate-owned products the biggest victims of the PC anti-sex mentality. Yeah, see? There's really not that much skin showing, is there? A little bit of thigh, some shoulder, and yet that alone is pretty nice. It's pretty sexy, Or it helps that you're drawing an ample breast there instead of trying to make it flatter. And while we're and while we're on the topic, here's a Newsarama interview with Thompson discussing her run on Black Widow, where the art looks even duller. And it also references two other not very admirable writers. Before Black Widow #6 hits comic book stands, do they still have comic book stands? April 28th, Newsarama had the chance to chat with writer about the book's next arc. Do they really have arcs anymore? Doesn't seem like it. Well, I mean, maybe for Black Widow, where it doesn't seem like they maintain Captain Marvel long enough to have an arc. It's like, we get a few issues out, and then it's like, the ratings, the sales have tanked. All right, reboot it. No time for a story to actually conclude, probably. Although, like I said, I don't really read it, so I wouldn't know. We'll discuss how Natasha's new costume relates to her forthcoming mission, the origins of Spider-Girl's upcoming appearance in the series. Hint, it's a reference from Kelly Sue DeConnick and Warren Ellis's Avengers Assemble. And what other faces, new and familiar, fans can expect to pop up? Not sure who's worse, Ellis or DeConnick. DeConnick. The latter under whom Carol Danvers really suffered. For now, here's something really laughable. Didn't Ellis get Me Too'd or some shit? In Newsarama, I guess. In Rama. Nat has a fancy new suit now. Why do you think it was time to introduce a fresh look, Thompson? It wasn't really about a fresh look, because Natasha's classic looks are pretty much perfect. In fact, we knew we'd have a huge challenge ahead of us to try to change her costume. Not sure why they think that black outfit is new, when it looks more or less like the black outfit she wore in decades past. What matters is that the artwork looks lethargic. It's only in that sense that the costume changed for the worse in Rama. in, Sorry, that just sounds stupid. In Rama. What made you want to bring the book to San Francisco? Uh, Now I see what the next picture is about. Thompson, I wanted a whole different world and life for Natasha, and so that certain, yeah, and so that certainly meant taking her out of New York City. New York City? Get a rope. But I liked that today's San Francisco was new to her. But also that she had lived here before, so it wouldn't feel completely foreign. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Nowadays, yes, it would. A place where she could dig in to the trash, to the feces, and make a home for herself on the street. And that she might still feel attached to even after that life came apart at the seams. It also, it also just, it's also just a fantastic city that makes for an incredible backdrop. It was just such cool, iconic stories. Holy fucking shit! Look at that. Oh fuck. Okay. Damn. It's also a city that, for the past decade, has become full of cases where trash and excrement have been left around. A considerable rise in drug addicts, sending the city into serious decay. What's so fantastic when you have that kind of sad situation prevailing? But if she thinks SF is great, why not Dallas, Sacramento, Cleveland, or Miami? What's wrong with those burgs? SF sounds like an awfully easy choice to me. Better yet, why not fictionalize city? They really have taken all this realism so far. They don't have what it takes to try the challenge of a fictional town or neighborhood anymore. I didn't realize it was a challenge. I would have thought that it was easier to do a fictional city because you don't have to be like, oh, well, I got this detail about it wrong. Well, it's like, who's going to notice because it's a fictional place? But anyway, it hasn't. Is it San Francisco or was it L.A. where they've had cases of fucking typhoid? California is really becoming a third world shithole. In Rama, the solicits what have revealed that Anya, Spider-Girl, will be showing up in Black Widow #8. What made you want to add her to the series? Thompson, the original inspiration is from a Kelly Sue DeConnick and Warren Ellis penned Avengers Assemble story from 2013, where Anya Corazon, is that how you spell that? I mean, pronounce that? I don't know. As a Spider-Girl, teams up with some Avengers. At one point, it's Anya, Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, and Black Widow. The lethal trio. And Anya makes the joke that they should be Team Lady Spiders. I think mine's better. And that always felt to me like something that should definitely happen. So again, Thompson really thinks writers that awful make the best inspiration, huh? Even when one of them has such an awful track record with women. Oh, yeah, that must be about him getting Me Too, right? Accusations against Warren Ellis, yes. I guess that says all you need to know about whom she thinks worth the nod. It's clear Chuck Dixon, the legend, wouldn't be cited by these SJWs as inspiration today by contrast. Yeah, no shit. Once again, Thompson's demonstrated why she's one of the worst modern writers in the medium today. Obviously not chosen for talent. And if memory serves, she penned the story where Carol turned evil. Is that the one where she fucking kills everybody? She certainly hasn't done anything to restore Carol's earthly origins, rather than the forced retcon where she's half alien instead, seeing how there's still a half sister of Cree background involved here. And if there's more company-wide crossovers in store at Marvel and the editors want Carol to be part of the festivity, it's highly likely they'll do just that, since such desperate sales gimmicks take precedence even over the weakest of storytelling. And this has gone on way longer than I thought it was going to. But yeah, I mean, even though I have, this particular piece at least, not necessarily everything that would be in that book probably, but the cover or whatever here at least. Even though I don't have a whole lot of issue with that personally, even I will definitely admit it's fallen so very, very far. Oh man. All right. Until the next one.